Hello and welcome back to Cozy News Corner for Week 6, 2026. This is your source to all the open source news in a cozy, laid-back way where I talk about the news and add some extra information to what is presented. So first we're going to do some really quick ones. We're going to go through a bunch of security notices. We have Open JDK, which has a man-in-the-middle attack where you can CRLF injection in the man-in-the-middle. So it's pretty extensive and it's for all different cases of all different versions of Open JDK. So just upgrade all of them. And then we have Tomcat, which has a resource depletion denial of service, and it also for all versions of Tomcat or all recent versions of Tomcat. And then we have a Chromium critical code execution denial of service. So this is also something that is great to update. We have an RDP, XRDP, buffer overflow remote execution. Pretty serious, so upgrade that if you're using it. We have the Keystone middleware that has an access escalation bug. So this was something that we saw earlier. Keystone is this authentication framework for OpenStack, so important to update that. We have free RDP, which also had this buffer overflow. So if you're using RDP software, upgrade them. GNU C library have a denial of service issue. We have access to important files in the Internet Archive Python library. So if you have using the Archive Python library, the Internet Archives Python library, it could actually allow you to unintended access to some files, which is not great. And last but not least, we have the libpng, which could cause a critical crash for a malformed PNG. So if you have that baked in any of your software, upgrade it, or else you could have a crash on your system. The first real news here that is not one of those quick ones, we have Darktable. And Darktable is one of those applications where you can take raw photos and edit them in order to get better results of your JPEGs and so on. So it's something you can take raw information directly from the camera and then do extra operations on them so you can get better images. And here they have added noise profiles for 2 new cameras, which is also great because the more cameras you support for these raw formats, of course, the better the result will be. Next up, we have Firefox that had tried to become an agentic browser with all the AI, but a lot of people didn't really like to have so much AI in their software. So now they have added a kill switch. So if you flip that in your Firefox after version 148, then all the AI features will be turned off and you will have a less AI-based browsing experience. Next up, we have Microsoft that introduces something called Litebox. And this is a new security-focused library OS. And this is pretty similar to some kind of Docker environment or similar. So it's a way of sandboxing things up on a kernel when you can run Windows applications, Mac applications, and Linux applications in the same sandbox pretty much. So if you look at the diagram here, we have a Linux shim, we have some OPT shim, a WASM shim, a Rust shim, and this Litebox can then run in either userland for Linux, FreeBSD, Windows, and I thought I read Mac as well here somewhere, but at least this Litebox is something that could run applications on all of these different operating systems. And this is MIT license and open source, so could be interesting to look into someday. Next up, we have Git, which has released a new maintenance release where they have better checks and faster diff paths. And improving the speed of diffing things for large repositories is, of course, really great. So I'm looking forward to upgrading my Git. Next up, we have the Linux from scratch, and I have a bunch of videos on the channel where I went through and installed Linux from scratch, and this is a great process to go through in order to get to know your Linux system better. You will install all the different packages that are required to make up a Linux environment, and you can read up on what the different responsibilities for all the packages are. So it's a really good project, and they have been using something called init, vinit for a long time, and this is something that Linux have been using for a long time as well. So you have a directory with a couple of scripts, and those scripts are pretty much initializing the system when it's booting up. But more and more of these Linux distributions have gone over to using systemd, but Linux from scratch has stayed back to use systemv init scripts. But they have now chosen to also go over and using systemd for all the coming releases of this Linux from scratch, and they do that reluctantly. But the whole ecosystem is moving that direction, so I think that is just something you need to do. Next up, we have the DI Day movement to encourage people to ditch big tech. So this is the Digital Independence Day movement in Dutch. So they have the Dutch page, and it was during the 39th Chaos Communication Congress where the Chaos Computer Club started this initiative to move away from big tech. So to open source solutions, of course. So this is an interesting move to make, and we are seeing these kind of movements more and more in the EU, so it's a trend. Next up, we have VS Code in Ubuntu that eats up a lot of disk space, and there is no fix for this as of typing or talking. So it's a pretty absurd bug, they say. It's pretty much that you have a particular place on your Linux system where you have all your trash files in your user home local shared trash, and that is cleaned up by GNOME in a pretty regular manner, pretty much every 7 days or so. But the problem is that the snap install will put the trash files, if you delete files, into the snap folder, current local shared trash instead, and that is not cleaned. So you could have a bunch of files there that you need to remove yourself. And I will actually go in and see if I have any trash there that I need to clean. This is something that they just need to fix, or I will uninstall it from Snap and install it just by a package or something like that, because this is not okay. Next up, we have Windows 11 that might introduce a Linux feature. So, and it's also a power user feature for Mac OS. And this is the launcher, this launch bar where you can just type something in and start an application. So they will add this launch bar that you have in the middle of your screen and call it a command palette launcher. So Linux have different kinds of these solutions all over the place, and Mac OS has this built in by default. So that Windows has finally started to implement some of these kind of features is probably due to a lot of people looking away from Windows, from all the different things that they have tried to do in order to lose people, pretty much. Adding more AI, adding more bloatware, adding more ads and so on. So people, they need to add something in that actually users want. And next up, we have a big problem in Notepad++. And it has been compromised for 6 months, so it's not something new, but you still need to upgrade. And I would say uninstall Notepad++, download a new copy from a good source and install it again. That would be my choice. What had happened was that the install servers were compromised, and when the downloaded software was replaced, you got a different source where you fetched your new updates from, and that source was not the same as Notepad++, so they could have injected a bunch of code, and it was not used regularly for regular users. It was actually targeted against sensitive operators and so on in order to steal information. But still, to make it clean and go away from this compromised version, my suggestion would be to uninstall, download a new copy, and install it again. So this was this week's news. I hope that you found it interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave those in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And I really hope to see you in the next video.